This is our news, the weekend edition, and on the broadcast tonight. Up in arms, some over-the-hill residents furious after police shoot a man dead. Plus, a woman dies on the streets of the capital. And the National Security Minister says there's positive signs police are on the right track in their fight against crime.
Brought to you by Alive, the nation's newest and best LTE network.
Good to be alive.
Good evening, I'm Andrew Knowles. Thanks for joining us. Fire officials are once again battling a large fire at the city dump, and given the current windy weather conditions, it may prove a challenge. Not much detail so far on what may have caused the fire, but it was shortly before 4 this afternoon when smoke started billowing from the site. Here's head of the Fire Services Department, Chief Superintendent Walter Evans.
When we got here, the first arriving crew met heavy plumes of smoke along with flames coming from a large area on the household section. At this point, all units have been called out. Several off-duty officers, specifically all of the supervisors, have been called out. All of the other firefighters within the Royal Bahamas Police Force Fire Services are on standby, and we have a number of other resources which we are bringing out here to ensure that this fire does not spread.
Meanwhile, it's not good news for residents in the surrounding communities who have to contend with the smoke emanating from the site.
We're moving towards the evening, and we know that once the wind subsides, we believe that the residents who reside in the Jubilee Gardens and all the surrounding areas, they may be affected by the wind, or rather the smoke, which may be moving in that direction. The fire right now and the smoke is moving more towards the west, and we're trying to prevent it from moving any further than where it's at right now. All resources are here, and we will do what we can to ensure that we bring relief to any residents who may be impacted.
We will have more details in tomorrow's newscast. In other news this evening, angry residents of an over-the-hill community want justice after police reportedly shot and killed a blind man last night. It all took place on Plantal Street shortly before 10 p.m. There was heavy police presence on the scene, but residents minced no words in expressing how they felt about the incident. It was a rowdy scene in the area of Plantal and East Streets last night after police fatally shot a blind man who was reportedly on a motorbike with another man. Dozens of residents were out in protest of the shooting, including a woman who identified herself as the victim's mother as she held his daughter in her arms.
My son came through here to get some food blind from 2003, February the 10th. And so the police knock him down, and they have some on camera. What they do is shoot him in his head when he was on the ground. What can a blind man do? And they won't even allow me to see my son. But there's a God up above, and justice will prevail.
There was heavy police presence on the scene last night to quell any attempts of a clash between officers and residents. Now, according to police reports, officers were responding to calls of gunshots being fired in the area. However, when they approached Irish Spring Court and Plantal Street, they encountered two men on a motorbike. Police say one of the men produced a firearm. Now, officers, being in fear for their lives, fired at the armed man, resulting in one of the men being fatally shot. But the victim's mother doesn't buy it.
My child is blind. What's going on? What can he do? What can a blind man do?
This is the third police-involved shooting in recent days. Earlier this week, officers shot and killed two men on Spiken Yard Road. Last week, a man was fatally shot by police in Abaco. This is the second fatal incident to happen in the same area recently. On Wednesday, police say a man was sitting in front of his doorway when two men emerged from a vehicle and shot him. He was pronounced dead on the scene. Now, as with all police shootings, Her Majesty's coroner is investigating the incident. Well, shortly following that incident, police were called to the scene of a traffic fatality on Boyd Road. Police press liaison officer Superintendent Shanton Knoll says it was shortly after 11 last night when a woman who was walking on Boyd Road was reportedly struck by someone driving a white Nissan Sentra.
The driver stopped and was inquiring on her condition when a second vehicle overtook him, hitting the woman and dragging her a short distance away. EMS was called to the scene. However, they were unable to revive the woman. The driver of the second vehicle remained on scene. However, the first vehicle left the scene.
Police are now appealing to that driver of that Nissan vehicle to contact traffic police.
We wish to thank members of the public, motorists and passers-by who assisted in pulling the woman from the vehicle shortly after this incident occurred. Other motorists and passers-by stopped and assisted the woman or removed her from under the vehicle before the wrecker came here.
One man was arrested yesterday after police seized a large quantity of suspected cocaine from the rooftop of his home. Police say the cocaine weighed in at 12 pounds with an estimated street value of $75,000. Drug Enforcement Unit officers acting on information searched the home and property at Cameron Way, Golden Gate number 2. Now, while searching the rooftop, the officers reportedly recovered a bag which contained 5 packages of cocaine. The man was taken into custody and is expected to be formally arraigned in the Magistrates Court next week. Meantime, there was a fire at Mount Moriah Church on Farrington Road this morning. Not much detail on what exactly happened or how the fire started. When our news team arrived on the scene, there appeared to be some fire damage on the side of the church. It is unclear whether the church sustained extensive damage. However, we're told the fire started just before a funeral. Following what he called the worst decade of crime in the country's history, which saw record-breaking murder counts, National Security Minister Marvin Dames says there are positive signs police are moving in the right direction in their fight against crime. Dames was a guest on our TV talk show On the Record with host Jerome Sawyer Thursday, hours before a 19-year-old mother was stabbed to death on Key West Street. He says though murders increased last year when compared to 2016, the drop in murders during the fourth quarter of 2017 is telling.
After saying that we would have had maybe over the last decade, the toughest decade in our history in respect to crime, I can say from that point that during the last quarter of 2017, we may have had one of the best quarters in a very, very long time. We would have seen a significant decrease, comparatively speaking, to past quarters over the last decade or so. And so there is some positive signs that the police are moving in the right direction.
9 people have been murdered so far this year. 5 of those killings have been recorded over this past week. Dames, who has promised to table Commissioner of Police Anthony Ferguson's 28 policing plan in Parliament next week, says prevention, detection, and prosecutions are a key part of their crime-fighting plan.
That we need to increase our level of visibility. Okay, we need to increase our outlay and our relationship with the community, keep engaged with the community, so that you will get information because it begins to build that level of trust between the police and the community. And so once we begin to do those things, begin to educate the public as to what to do and what not to do, and that's the primary role of policing.
However, he says police can't do it alone, adding officials must find a solution to what is causing young people to go astray and look at crime prevention from a holistic standpoint.
If we're not addressing those risk factors that are leading our young people along this path, the police will continue to have one of the most, if not the most difficult job in this country, because you're not going to solve every homicide.
And we'll take a break here, but still ahead tonight. Level the playing field. That's what the CEO of Sky Bahamas is asking government to do. We'll explain. And the Works Minister talks renewable energy. Those stories and more. Our news returns.